So let's go through the whole thing. What happened here? This is a situation where Pawtucket police go into Central Falls and they arrest a guy. Right?
Right.
You want to give us a background on what happened there that day?
Right. So this happened. He was arrested on September 12th over supposedly what I've been able to gather
25
of 2025, gathering some incident that happened in Pawtucket. Don't even know what on September 11th. So the man's name is James Barsoom. I spoke with him for a good long time, and so he told me on the morning of September 12th, he's walking his dog back to his house. Sees some cars, there, tinted windows, and doesn't think too much of it until he goes in the house and the dog starts barking. Opens the door to his house into the breezeway, and there's a lot of Pawtucket police officers standing there. One of them grabs him by his braid, slams him down on the floor. His dog, of course, attacks one of the cops, bites him, and that's when they call the Central Falls Police Department for help. So
they're in Central Falls. Pawtucket police are in Central Falls,
right? And they don't have
they
don't have jurisdiction in Central Falls. You have local police have jurisdiction in their own cities.
Sure.
And the protocol is, state police, of course, have jurisdiction everywhere. But the protocol is if you want to go arrest somebody in another city, you got to tell that local police department about it because there could be something else going on.
Confusion.
They're the ones who are going to carry out the arrest for you.
Yep.
There could definitely be something that goes wrong. So that was the first thing. I started hearing about that sometime last fall after it happened. Central Falls shows up and they take the dog away. They take James Barsoom away. He says he has no idea why they arrested him. They didn't show him a warrant. Take him downtown.
When I say they, you're talking about
the Pawtucket police
take him out of Central Falls and bring him into the
right.
police
And
station.
They book him. They stick him in a jail cell. Supposedly he's there for a couple of hours, and then they let him go. And they don't tell him why they held him. He walks home from there. And he files an internal affairs, complaint against them. And by the time I finally catch up with him months later, he says, I still don't know what happened. He goes,
they don't tell him anything in there. There's
no, he told me he heard that maybe, that someone had hit one of the Pawtucket officers the day before. Wasn't him, clearly. There was something else that was said to the Attorney General's office from Pawtucket. What happened? I don't know. What I do know is that the Pawtucket police went into another city, into a man's home, grabbed him, threw him down to the ground, took him into custody, took his dog away for 5 days, and have never said anything about it. And that's what really intrigued me. What the heck happened here?
Yeah. So there's no legal requirement that they have to tell you what you're being detained for. They didn't say we're investigating a robbery, we're investigating, we think you're a guy who did this. There's no requirement that they have to tell you?
If you're going to arrest somebody, you're going to take away their freedom. You're going to take them into custody. You kind of have to tell them why. You should tell them why. They didn't show him an arrest warrant.
Yep.
So was anything signed by a judge? Don't know. They didn't tell him what his charges were. He got a text messages afterwards from one of the officers who was friendly to him and just said, hey, do you need anything? Can we help you out? Medical bills, I think he was talking about. Because the guy said he did get injured during the arrest. He didn't seek anything from them, but he did file a complaint against them. It's very strange. And, I didn't think this was going to blow up the way it ended up. Because Rhode Island has a state law that says arrest reports are public records. And in fact, when they amended it in 2012, they made it very clear that you have so much time. This is when you need to release information about an adult who's been arrested. This is the information you have to put out, including the names of the officers who make the arrest. It's arrest in charge or charges of somebody. And I thought, well, he was arrested. Let's see what happened here. And I'm really interested in how the decision was made to what appears to be going against protocol to arrest this man in his home and not really tell him why. And the first thing that happened was the city solicitor said, I'm not giving it to you because it's an issue of privacy. It's not mandatory that I give you an arrest report because he wasn't charged. And I think that's ridiculous. I've never had that happen before. So I appealed the Attorney General's
You've been
office.
covering, just so people understand, you worked for the Providence Journal previous to the Globe.
Yeah.
How many years were you covering crime and police issues?
I started,
it's got to be 20-something years?
Yeah, more than that. More than that. I started covering the Providence Police Department in December 2000.
So you've been doing this a long time. So
yeah.
in all that time,
yeah,
you've never been refused an arrest report?
No.
Charges, no charges, doesn't matter.
I'm an adult? No. And usually I'm not as interested unless there's a reason if someone is arrested and they end up, dropping charges and letting them go because okay, I'm more interested in the crime. This was so crazy that I was interested in how do you make a decision like that? Who are
Sure.
the officers who made that decision? That was
Because
part
the
of
person has no, if the person has no idea what he did, you believe
right.
him? You believe that?
I do believe
It's
him.
not one of those things where I kind of know, but I'm gonna. I don't even know, man. Come on, I was involved, kind of, but I'm not.
Yeah.
You don't get any sense of that.
No, because they dropped it so quickly, and then they're just like, "Oh, sorry. Texting you, hey, do you need anything? Let
So there was an apology, like an official apology,
no,
or
it was not. Matt.
All right, so there's no official apology.
No. I've been texting with him recently, and he still doesn't know what the heck happened. And
That's bizarre.
So I thought I was going to get some answers from the Attorney General's office. Because when the city solicitor in Pawtucket says, well, the word and, arrest and charges means that.
Let's talk about the law, because you have it in your story. I want to make sure people understand. I don't want to go too fast. You said you got from I'm reading from your story now, you're talking about the Assistant Attorney General Patrick Reynolds, who you spoke to.
No, I didn't speak to this special. No, he wrote this decision.
Oh, he wrote the decision. Okay.
Yep.
So he says in the thing that you write in your story, Reynolds focused on the state law's use of the word and, determining that only arrests that result in charges are public record. So it's what? Arrest and charges?
Yes. Yeah. So he was agreeing with the Pawtucket City Solicitor, who says, oh, it says and here. That means if he's not charged, it's not, not mandated this is not mandated as a public record. Now, the AG's office said, there's a balancing test involved. We'll talk about that. But then this Special Assistant Attorney General put in his decision, oh, by the way, Pawtucket, there's another law you could use to seal and destroy these records when someone who is wrongfully or mistakenly arrested, you can get rid of them within so many days. So my question there to the Attorney General's office is, okay, so if there's a supposed balancing test for someone who's wrongfully arrested, but you're also saying, by the way, you can get rid of those records, where's that balancing test kick in?
And I guess the theory of this is that if you're wrongfully arrested, you don't want to be embarrassed by having an arrest report on file. Is that what it is? Just in case anybody looks for it. Like, we can get rid of this. It was you didn't get charged with anything,
right.
So it's like, let's erase even the sniff of a criminal past. Is that that the theory behind it?
And obviously someone does not have a criminal past if they're arrested and they're not criminally charged, as this guy was. I mean, that's it. That's what they were arguing in this case. However,
he wants to know.
I want to know. I want to know, who are the officers who made this decision? How do you make a decision like that? And, when the protocol on going into another city is pretty basic, and you don't tell somebody that they're under arrest. The other thing is, I've written about this department before with issues of transparency, but also with an issue of another wrongful arrest case, a really big one. Wrote about it about a year and a half ago. There was a detective who had a history of really having problems, poor investigations. She ends up arresting a man for murder in a cold case. And turns out, they're not even sure it was even a murder. They had to drop that arrest. And he sued and won $1 million settlement. So that is another reason why I'm really interested in how these wrongful arrests happen. What's the oversight here? What's the administration doing? Is there any type of training? That's really what I wanted to get to, and that's what I was trying to explain to the Attorney General's office. Of this is not just a wrongful, mistaken arrest. Something happened to this guy in his home. So
where's his IA complaint? Do you have any idea where that is?
No idea. No.
He doesn't know either?
Nope. Doesn't know. He's really unsure of what to do now. And that's why I wanted to but I'm really interested in, what does this mean for the public?
Sure, yeah, because you spoke to the New England First Amendment Coalition.
Correct.
And they're like, this allows you people to basically just get scooped up, and then as long as you don't charge people, you can scoop people up, do whatever you want, and there's no accountability to the public, right? That's the concern.
That's
here.
exactly.
But there's a loophole in the law now. As long as you don't charge people, you could do all kinds of stuff to them.
That's what they're saying this decision really did. The ACLU is saying the same thing. They're really horrified by it. And
by the AG's interpretation of the law.
By the Attorney General's interpretation of the law. So I thought, okay, the Attorney General's office is bringing up, the legislative intent. And they brought that up because there's a law here that says you can seal and destroy these records. So I figured this has probably come up before at the legislature when they were talking about amending the public records law. So I contacted the former senator and the former representative who were the prime sponsors of that.
And who are they? Is it Jim Sheehan?
Yeah, Jim Sheehan, Mike Marcello. They were great. They were completely horrified. They said no.
It was not what they were trying to do.
When we said arrest reports, we meant arrest reports. We meant this. And one of them said to me, he said, how are you arresting people and not charging them? Like, how does this happen? They're very concerned about this. And they said, I think it was Mike Marcello said that, yeah, we use the word "and," but I think we're just kind of over-explaining. You know, like we just wanted to make sure that that was a part of it.
Mike Marcello's an attorney, right? He's like a city solicitor for a lot of places.
Yep.
I think last I remember anyway. In the past, he had been city solicitor for I think multiple towns.
Right. Yeah, and they had a lot of debate about this at the General Assembly, and they brought up we did talk about the balancing test, which is if I release this, is it going to affect the privacy? Is this good for the public? But they both said to me that had nothing to do with the arrest. The arrest was a different story because that had to do with what are police doing with their power. And that's the type of oversight we need. It isn't unfounded report, I thought this guy took my cat, he didn't take my cat. This is about the police take away somebody's freedom for any amount of time, and they need to be accountable for that.
I would imagine you reached out to the mayor and to the police chief.
Not reach out to the mayor and police chief. This had to do with the Attorney General's office. This is about their decision now. When I wrote
their interpretation of the law.
When I wrote the initial story, absolutely. And the city solicitor at the time, it maintained exactly what the Attorney General's office decided that had to do with the word "and." Yeah.
But they never gave you an answer as to what was the story here? Why did this person was it a mistake? What happened?
So the police chief did not respond to me. I had appealed to the mayor, but because I was appealing to the Attorney General's office, he let them handle it. The Major David Holden handled it. They gave me a statement that basically did not answer a lot of my questions about what the heck happened here. And, he said that we did contact the Central Falls Police. Yeah, they did, after they already arrested the guy. And that's not how it's supposed to go. So did I get an explanation of what really happened? No.
So, but the real concern for the future is it's obviously this guy's got his own. He's going to have to go through either civil litigation of some kind or the internal investigation, that kind of thing.
If he chooses to.
If he chooses to. But the issue for you, for purposes of transparency, of access to public records, which is very important to reporters, specifically for your work, is to have a proper interpretation of this. Is that arrest reports, which you've gotten your entire career, should not be hidden if there's no charges.
No.
So we need to change the law. Because if this interpretation has happened and the interpretation needs to be changed, it needs to be clarified.
It needs to really be clarified. If this decision stands as it is, as the ACLU sees it, as the New England First Amendment Coalition sees it, as even the original sponsors of the law sees it, this opens the door for secrecy. Mm-hmm. And can you have, most cops are great at their job and they are really careful to document what they do. But you can have some rogues who arrest somebody and decide, well, I'm going to hold you for a little while, and as long as I don't charge you, I don't have to tell anyone.
And then they ruin it for everybody else who do the 99% who do everything the right way. Sure. It makes everything miserable. All right, Amanda Milkovits from Boston Globe's with me. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and ask about what the next steps are and what you're hearing from the public officials out there. I'm sure you're getting a lot of reaction from the legislators. We're still technically in the midst of the session. I know it's towards the end, but maybe there can be some quick patch here that would be a easy rubber stamp. Just get this done. We'll talk about it when we come back. All right, Amanda Milkovits, Boston Globe story all about this. There's the original story about the arrest. You can go. That's still online on the Boston Globe website.
That's right.
That's from back in, you said, in January?
There was one in January and the one yesterday.
So if you want to see the story about the actual arrest and what happened there.
In the video.
But this specifically is the case. This story is mostly about the Attorney General's decision to interpret the law in a way that favors Pawtucket for not disclosing the arrest report.
Correct.
And what that decision reverberation that now it's kind of like a test case, right? I mean, it's now that can be all the police departments listening to this right now, thinking, all right, we don't charge this guy. Yeah. We can do all kinds of things, and we never have to release the arrest report. Now, luckily, 99% of police departments are not looking to do anything shady, right? Most cops are not going to look at it. So that kind of helps us, as is evidenced by your career, getting these reports anytime you ask for them, right?
Sure.
So this is something new. And that's the problem. So you talked about the ACLU. You talked about the New England First Amendment Coalition. Are they looking for legal action here? Are they looking to go to the General Assembly to fix this? How are we going to work on this?
So I heard a couple things. My colleague Ed Fitzpatrick, who does a lot of coverage up in State House, and he's been talking with Senator Lou DePalma, and I'm hoping to talk to him soon, who's been a big proponent of the Access to Public Records Act, and he's looking at what can we do about this to make it clear, because the original sponsors said, our intent was this is supposed to be a public record. I've even been hearing from police officers and police leaders in other departments who are like, ooh, this isn't good for us, actually.
No, they know it.
We don't
Oh,
we don't want this. I mean, most of them do want some accountability here. It's funny. I talked to the lawyer, and this is in yesterday's story. I talked to the lawyer who brought the action, the civil rights action in the wrongful arrest case that led to the $1 million settlement in Pawtucket. And I said, well, what happens if they seal and destroy these records? First of all, he's going to get the records. But if they destroy them, he says it's actually even better for a lawyer who's taking legal action, taking a civil rights action against a police department. Because mostly, he's hired.
Shows
police.
a cover up, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He said there's so many things that are weird about this. First of all, I didn't get the incident report that led to his arrest in the first place. They didn't redact anything. They could have redacted things. They could have said, you know what? We know you know who he is. We're going to take out his name because you're not going to get it from us. But this is what happened. Nope. Withhold everything. You can destroy everything. But yeah, the lawyer said actually, most police experts that he's had, all police experts he's had have said, look, you account for every single action you take because it protects you later. This is not going to protect the cops either.
I just can't believe that there's not like a due process right implementation here where if you're arrested for something, you are to be given a document. Even if you're not charged, this is why we arrested you. We suspected you of this. You matched the description. Your license plate was this number. We thought it was this number, so it was one digit off. We screwed up. Whatever. And there's none of that.
He should have had at least an arrest warrant, especially since it wasn't like they pulled him over and dragged him out of a car.
Right. There was no problem. They went to his house.
They went to the day after something happened. They went to his house. Why?
This is so egregious that it makes me wonder if there's something else here. And as far as you can tell, there's nothing else.
Oh, I don't know, Matt. I don't know. I mean, initially when I started hearing about this, back in the fall, I didn't know where this was going to go. And I'm still curious about where this is going to go.
The individual who's arrested, was he very cooperative? Oh, sure, I'll talk to you, no problem. Was he somebody you had to like?
Well, I mean, so
sure, he doesn't want any trouble.
So I only have the body-worn camera video from Central Falls, who showed up when he's already on the ground. You can see that on the Boston Globe website. And, he's on top of his dog, trying to keep his dog from continuing to attack the cops. The cops are on top of him. So it's total chaos when they get there. He told me that he opened the door. One of them grabbed him by his braid, threw him down, and jumped on him. So it doesn't even sound like he had a chance to say, hey, what's going on? While they're on top of him, the animal control officer from Central Falls says, tells the Pawtucket officers, can you all leave? Can everybody get off of him so I can get the dog and control the dog? And the cop says, oh, we're not. And James volunteered and said, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. And they said, oh, we're not letting you go. You're in custody. He's not going anywhere. So it didn't look like he was struggling with them. But,
Interesting.
That's what he said.
Amanda, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.